Hello everyone, Linda Israel here, and I have the Soiree digital journal kit from Calico Collage that I'm working on, and I thought I would kind of show you a little bit about constructing a page for this journal. So the first thing I've done is I've got one of the pages that I have printed, and then I went ahead and trimmed out the white edges. The next thing I do is I've got this little corner that I think would be kind of pretty if it was a little tuck spot. So I've got a little scrap of cardstock here, and I think that if I go on the back side and I'm just going to spread some glue around, that I can glue down this piece of cardstock. So I'm going to kind of look through it a little bit, and I'm going to make a line that kind of goes over both sides of where these flowers are. And it may look like I'm putting a lot of glue, but it's really not a lot because it's just barely touching the surface here. So I'm just using the Best Glue Ever by ScraPerfect, and I just made little squiggles on here. And I'm going to take this piece of cardstock and lay that right on top, press it into place. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this out all the way around. I call this fussy cutting. So I have fussy cut that portion out. So the next thing I'm going to do is use some distressed ink on here. Now that I've got the distressed ink added to the edges here, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some glitter paint onto this rose. So I've got some Tulip dimensional glitter, and then I have the ScraPerfect medium no clog cap, writing cap. So it has a very fine point on it. I didn't clean it very well last time. That if you press down onto your paper using this, you can make an outline of glitter. So I'm just squeezing out just a little bit here once I get the glue down to the tip. So I'm just going in here with this tip and just adding a little bit of this Tulip glitter paint, and it will dry clear but sparkly. So I'm going to set this aside to dry, and then I'm going to work on this portion, adding a little bit of the Tulip paint. And then I'll set this aside to dry. I'm done using the Tulip glue, so I'm going to clean the tip off just a little bit. And then I've got the Best Cleaner Ever, so I just like to spray just a small amount right on the end. And then I take the pokey tool that's going to go down inside this needle and drop it into that cleaner. What that'll do is that'll ensure that this isn't going to clog, and you just poke it down into the needle. Of course, I can't get my fingers to cooperate, and then close it up, and that'll prevent it from clogging up next time. And then any that I have left over here on my cap, I'll use on my fingers because I always end up getting either adhesive or ink or tattered angels or something on my hands, so I'll try to wipe those off. Well, while that portion is drying, I have some scraps and bits. I know it's probably a little confusing, all the stuff I have going on here, but basically I'm going to build a fabric page, and this is going to go on the back side of the digital printed page from Calico Collage. I've also gone in and I printed a couple of the journal cards that are part of the kit from Calico Collage Soiree, and I've shrunk them to be smaller. So here is the original size, I believe, and then there's the smaller size that I made. So I've got two different sizes here. And then I've got some watercolor paper here, and then I've got some muslin and some scraps of fabric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to layer these all up, and we're going to sew on them. And then we're going to take this watercolor paper. I don't know if it's truly watercolor paper, but it feels like watercolor paper, and it was something that I got in a grab bag from Canvas Corp Brands, and so I've been using it. And what I've done so far is I have added some distress ink, and then I had some patterns here. My neighbor cleaned out her sewing room because she's moving, and she had all these patterns, and I took the pattern and I'm just going to cut them up. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing to this piece as well. That is taking the distress ink, and I'm going to go around the edge just to kind of give that a distressed look. And I'm going to use some just cheap glue stick because this tissue is so thin and I don't want to use a wet glue on it. So I'm just going to go across this and just give a generous coating of this glue stick. And then I'm going to take this tissue and lay it on top, and then I'll trim it out. Then I'm going to go back with the distress ink and go over the tissue paper and kind of help blend that together. So these are going to be 2 components of my journal card. I also have some little images here that I want to put on top. So I'm just going to use my distress ink around the edges of those. I'm going to kind of put these on here wherever I think they look kind of interesting. And I'm going to glue this in place. Now I've kind of laid out some fabric here that I want to use, and the first thing I'm going to do is take this purple piece. I'm going to cut it in half because I want to use it on the edges, and I think it's the right amount because it's going to go here and here, and this piece is going to go across the top. So I'm going to take this other purple piece and trim it to fit the canvas. And since I kind of got it marked where I want things to go, I'm going to use some ScraPerfect glue. And the reason I'm going to use the glue is because I am going to sew, but I want this fabric to stay in place when I sew on top of it and not have to fight it with pins and whatnot. Well, I've got the fabric and lace pretty much laid out where I think I want it. I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and show you how I'm going to put this together on my sewing machine. Okay, I'm over at my sewing machine and I have some brown thread in my upper, and then I have some ivory thread in my lower. And what I'm going to do is zigzag stitch around this little image here, and then I'm going to do a zigzag stitch down one side because I want to sew this down onto my page that I'm making. And I don't want stitches all the way around because I want to use my sewing machine to attach it to my other portion of my page. So I'm just going to do a zigzag stitch around here, and I'm going to stitch down one side. So that is how it looks right now. And I'm going to stitch around this image on the second card and then down the other side. Now I have both of these pieces sewn around the outside where I want to have stitching before I place it on the next portion. Alright, on this portion, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a zigzag stitch across the bottom of this purple and the top of this pink here, because I want the stitches to show through when I put the cards on. So there'll be a little bit of stitching here and here that, I'm not in shot, here and down here that'll be seen after this card's attached. This will also ensure that my fabric doesn't move. Even though I've put glue behind it, the stitches will help it stay in place as well. So now I've added the stitches across the top of this pink and then the bottom of the purple here. And the next thing I'm going to do is grab one of these journaling cards and I'm going to sew it down, but I'm going to leave this open on this side where the stitches are that I put on the card to begin with. I want to make sure that I'm in the center, so I'm going to fold my page in half and kind of crease it. And that seems somewhat center, so I'm just going to zigzag stitch on the 3 sides of this journal card. There's one side that has been sewn down, so we've got a pocket here on this side. Now I'm going to do the same over here. So there's both pieces sewn on there. I'm back over on my desk because I wanted to show you how I'm going to construct this a little bit. Just so you know, the canvas on the back side is from Canvas Corp Brands. I chose to use canvas because when I put the fabric together, it was too flimsy. But when I put it on the canvas, that seemed to sturdy it up just a little bit. So that's why I chose to do it that way. I've got a couple of pieces of lace that I have trimmed to fit on this side. And I just thought it would be a nice little touch. So what I'm going to do, because I want to sew these all at one time, is I'm going to pin it across here just so that I know it's not going to shift on me. And I'll do that on the top and the bottom with this lace. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to move these out of the way. I had it laid out because I thought I'd show you that next, but I'm not going to. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I've got some lace here that I'm going to put on the edges. So I'm just kind of laying it out here. And I'm going to use the best glue ever and basically tack it into place because I'm going to sew this in a moment, but I don't want the pieces to all move around on me. So I'm just going to put a little bead of the best glue ever from ScraPerfect just right down here on this fabric edge, and then I'm going to lay the lace right on top of it. All right, now I'm going to repeat this on the other side. All right, so there's the lace glued in place, and I'm just making sure that I have this in the right direction because the next thing I want to do is I want to lay this piece of paper on top, and I'm going to kind of adhere it down just a little bit. I do plan to sew on top of it, but again, I don't want it to shift on me while I am getting it in position to sew. So I'm just going to use a little bit of the best glue ever. I'm going to put some right on the back side where I cut it out. And then just a little bit on the back here. Then I have, again, from my neighbor that cleaned out her space. And it may be hard to see, but it's a real pretty piece of lace. And I just thought it would be really pretty if I positioned it over where I cut this out, so that it could be the pocket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a little bit of the best glue ever to the back side of this and glue it into place. I got a little bit of glue on my hand, so I'm just going to use the best cleaner ever and rub that on here. That's what happens when you press down on lace. The glue kind of comes up through it. I'm going to let this dry for a few minutes, and then I'm going to replace the next portion on here. The next thing I'm going to do is I want to attach this piece that I cut off to make a tuck spot. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue here and here. I am going to sew on top of this. So again, I'm not worried about if I don't get enough glue. I want it to just hold in place. And again, I'm using the best glue ever by ScraPerfect. I just made a little line all the way around. And I'm going to lay this down. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my sewing machine, and I'm going to do a zigzag stitch all the way around, and that will apply both of these pieces of paper together to make a page. I'm back over at my sewing machine, and I'm going to do a zigzag stitch all the way around, and that's going to adhere these pages together to make one page for my junk journal. Alright, so I've got the pages sewn together. Now I'm going to show you what I will do next. Alright, prior to the video starting, I created these little journal cards. I used the ScraPerfect's No Clog writing cap on Tulip glitter paint and added some glitter. Hopefully you can see that shimmer on there. And then I added a little bit of lace, and it's sewed onto some cardstock. And then I made a couple others where, again, I sewed onto cardstock. I added the glitter paint, and then this time I added some fabric and some words that I created on my silhouette, and then of course a heart that I punched out of some glitter and some other fabric and lace there. So these are going to be some journaling cards, and here's what I'm going to do. The ones that are going, I'm going to do them opposite this way, so you'll have this little lace thing sticking out. Those will go there. And these I'm going to put in this little pocket. Let's see, be original. Just put that on top. So there is my junk journal page that'll go into my Soiree, and I'm just folding it in half. So that's how it's going to look when you're flipping through. You'll see this is a little pocket here. This can also be a tuck spot where the lace is on the bottom. Then the journaling card here. And then on the inside, we've got journaling space. We've got a little bit of journaling space here. And then we've got these two little cards that will stick inside there. And then here's the other side, again with another journaling card on this side. Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing a different take of creating a junk journal page by layering fabric together and adding the journaling cards and lace. Of course, using the Calico Collage Tea Soiree. If you did like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and of course, comment below your thoughts on this. What are your favorite things to use in your junk journal? Do you like to use fabric and lace and sewing, or do you like to keep it very just paper only in your junk journals? I'd like to know what you do in yours when you make them. Check out my social media connectors in the description box below, where you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook groups, I don't know, a lot of other places. You can check out my blog to have a complete list of all of the products that I used here today. And then, of course, some close-up photos and other thoughts and comments that I have that didn't make it to the video. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, hit that notification bell at the top so that you get notification. Thanks so much for watching. Have a fabulous day. Bye.